Hello everyone. Today we are going to be making a bearing cover. So it looks like this, and basically it's a chunk of plastic that houses the bearing. There's also a hole deeper in here for the shaft to come through and sit inside there as well. And there's also 3 holes for screws to attach it. And then you can see we've beveled the edge here and we've inset the heads of the screws there as well. So that's the basics of the part, and now let's go ahead and start building it. We're going to build this part on the front wheel right here over this hole, and then just build all the aspects of it. Before we get to that though, let's make this look like a piece of wood. So we're going to have plywood and 3D printed parts. It's nice to color them so we can keep track of which one's which. So I'm going to push the A button. It'll bring up the appearance menu. And there's all these different kinds of things you could choose. You could make this out of concrete. It doesn't matter what you choose, but I'm gonna go to wood here and choose bamboo. I like the bamboo look. It's a little less grainy than other woods, but choose whatever you'd like. If you want a wood and there's this little arrow, you've got to click on that arrow to download that. It takes a few seconds and then you can start using it. So I'm gonna use the bamboo one, but again, feel free to use whichever one you like. Go check out a bunch of them. Once you use a material type, it'll show up here as a quick reference one. All right, so that's our wooden piece there. I'm gonna hit close here. Now I'm gonna create a sketch on the outside face of the outside panel here. And that's gonna square me up to it. And then I'm gonna come in here and grab a circle tool, go right to the middle of this circle here. And I know I'm there because it turns into, like, I'm right there in the middle of the page. I'm going to come out and go 45 millimeter is the outside diameter of this piece. And I'm going to go ahead and extrude this right away. So I'm going to tip it over a little bit and hit E for extrude. I'm going to extrude the center and this outside bit. I think it's easier to bring a solid piece out and cut holes in it than it is to mess around the other way. So the full extrusion depth is 17 millimeters for this one. So I'm going to click in here and 17, and now you can see it's trying to make the piece out of wood. So it shows it as wood because what it's trying to do here, it's joining the 2 pieces together. But that's what I want. I want a separate piece for the bearing cover. So I'm going to click on the join here, and I'm going to choose new body. That puts it back to gray. Now it's a separate piece, and I'm going to click OK. Go back to my home view. You can see there's my bearing cover in its most basic form. Now if I come over here to the left and I look at this stuff over here, these are different folders I have. So let's explore these real quick. This first one is the bodies folder. In Fusion, a body is a separate chunk of material. So we have 2 bodies here, one for the outside panel and another one for the bearing cover. So instead of just having them named body 1 and body 2, we can double click on them. And then I'm going to call this one the outside panel. We're going to have 15 or 20 bodies on this design at the end, so that we need to make sure we're keeping track of which one's which. Otherwise, it's really hard to go back and find something when you need it. And this one's going to be the front bearing cover. In fact, I'm going to call it the F bearing cover, because that's shorter and it won't stick out into the page quite as far. All right, so now we've got our 2 bodies named. Also notice that we have a folder here called sketches. Inside here are all the drawings we've done. So that was our first sketch we made, and this was the second sketch we made. So you can go back and find your sketches here. Notice that this eyeball with the line through it that's dim means that it's turned off currently. So if I click on this eyeball, it will turn it back on. But that can be really distracting, so unless I need it, I'll go ahead and leave it off. I can also turn parts on or off. So if I want to focus in on one part, I can turn the other parts on or off without losing them. All right, let's get into it again. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the bevel on this. So we're going to put that hard bevel on the edge. So to do that, I'm going to go to Modify. I'm going to choose Chamfer and not Fillet. A fillet is a round over edge, and it's not going to print very well on this one, so we're going to use a chamfer. I'll show you that later when we go to print it. All right, so I'm going to click here on the edge, and I'm going to do 17, whoa, not 17, 7, that was way too much. 7 millimeters is our bevel amount. Yeah, 7 millimeters is our bevel amount, and I'm going to click OK. Actually, let me cancel real quick. Let me show you one thing. When I go to the chamfer, I don't want to pick the side like this, or it's going to chamfer both edges, front and back. I don't want to, I could pick the top, but in this case, I'm going to pick just this, exactly what I want to chamfer, 7, and enter. All right, next I want to create the holes that go into this. So I'm going to create a sketch on the surface of the bearing cover. And I might come over here and hide the outside panel just so it's not so distracting. Now, notice that by creating the sketch on the surface of this, I've captured this circle, the geometry of that surface. But this piece is down below. I don't actually have access to it. Let me show you what I mean by that. I want to create a circle that is 10 millimeters across. I want this circle to be right on the outside edge here. So I'm going to grab my tangent tool. And what tangent does, remember, is it lines up a circle with something else. So like makes them barely touch and line up perfectly. So I'm going to click on my inside circle. I'm going to try and click on the outside. Oh, it's going to let me. Oh, that was cool. Normally it wouldn't let me do that, but you can see what it did instead is it did something automatically for me. It did a projection. I'll show you how to do that in a second as well. But it actually took this circle that's not on my sketch and projected it up with this purple circle here. Oftentimes it won't do that. That must be a new feature. I like that. I'm going to Control Z that. I want to show you how to do it manually as well. So when you have something like this that's below, like you can see the level of the sketch is right here on the face, and this circle isn't on the sketch. If I want to have something that's not on the surface, like drawn on the surface for me, I use P for project, and I'm going to click on this outside circle and click OK. And all that did was do that. So before, when I clicked on it, it actually did that automatically for me, which is pretty slick. I'm going to go back and do the tangent tool, click on my little circle and this one. Now I want this circle right at the top. So what I'm going to do is come over here and grab a construction line. Click on the center of this circle, the center of this circle. Then I'm going to hit Escape to leave the line tool. I'm going to use the vertical constraint tool to click on this line, and it'll snap it vertically for me. So now this circle is here and here. Next thing I want to do is I want to create 3 of them. So one thing I could do is I could create 3 different circles and go put them in and try and space them out just right. But even easier, this is a great tool in the Create menu called Circular Pattern. I'm going to click on it. The objects that I'm trying to pattern is this circle, and the center point of the pattern is going to be the center point here. And you can see what it's done is it's created a circular pattern of this shape. Now the reason I use a circular pattern isn't because this is a circle, but rather the distribution of the pattern goes in a circle. It can be kind of hard to understand. We're going to click OK. Fantastic. Last thing we'll do on this video is we're going to extrude this down to be even with this bottom base. So I'm going to hit E for extrude, and I'm going to click on all of these parts here. And I know I beveled that at 7 millimeters, so I should be able to say 7 here. Oops, it went the wrong way, so I know, okay, if it goes the wrong way, I must have needed the other direction. I'll change that 7 to a -7, and all of a sudden now I'm cutting in, and that looks fantastic. And Fusion has guessed correctly. I want to cut this in. I could do here a join if I wanted that to be solid material there instead of a cut. But I don't. I want to cut. I'm going to say OK. All right, so far so good. We've got the head extrusions done. And the next video, we'll cut the holes for the screws and then the hole for the bearing on the back side. Great job. Hang in there.